Labor announced a net zero emissions target by 2050 and will oppose taxpayer funding of new coal power. Where is the baseload coming from? But anyway, there's one question that he won't answer.
Labor government will adopt the carbon neutral target of zero net emissions by the year 2050.
Oh, son, tell them the price.
The electricity system alone will require expenditure of almost $1,000 billion by current service providers, new entrants and customers by 2050 to get to this target. So that's $1 trillion. Does that sound about right?
Well, these are research that's being done.
Son, tell them the price.
Johnny won't tell him the price, and he never will tell him the price.
Look, it is such a monumental joke. Now, you think about it. He's projecting what the Australian government policy will be in 30 years from now. Well, let's go back in time 30 years from here. We get to the year 1990. How different was the world then? We had a thing called the Cold War was still going on. We didn't have the internet. A whole lot of other things hadn't happened.
We didn't even have mobile phones.
Good point, thank you. Now, so how on earth could a Prime Minister in 1990 come and tell us what's going to happen in the year 2020 when they had no idea what the world's going to be? And you know what? There's going to be the same amount of exciting change over the next 30 years. This whole global warming thing is a total fairy tale. And the fact that they've put it out to 30 years, this is kicking at the can all the way across the Nullarbor.
Liz Storer, Matt Canavan pointed out that if you do the same calculations that New Zealand has done, it'll cost us about $400 billion. And then I looked at a report today from a global warming foundation that said it'll cost the UK $3 trillion.
Yeah, look, the quotes that we are hearing from other countries attempting a similar ridiculous feat are absolutely through the roof, which is why Albanese cannot give us a straight answer. He just keeps telling us jobs won't be slashed, the economy won't be trashed, and power prices won't be sky high. But we all know all three of those are absolutely going to happen. There's no plan, there's no costings. These guys have absolutely no idea what they're doing besides virtue signalling.
He must have been asleep at the last election. Anyway, the Prime Minister is under scrutiny over his involvement in the sports grant saga. I've got to say, John, it felt to me today that Labor was trying to do everything it could to raise sports grants so they didn't keep getting asked about the cost of a zero net emissions target by 2050. Am I right?
Well, you might be right about that, but I think that Andrew Clennell, your colleague at Sky, I thought he's done some pretty good research today. I think it's pretty disturbing. Look...
in what point, though? Is not the 136 emails, surely?
Well, yes. And
the Minister would get 136 emails in the first hour of being in Parliament.
OK, well, look, there seems to have been a hell of a lot of focus just in the weeks coming into a pretty tight election about exactly where this money was going. But look, the biggest thing that needs to be said, Chris, is the federal government should not be funding sports grants. I mean, the Australian Constitution is very clear. It delineates about 30 different things that the federal government is allowed to make laws about, and everything else is for the states. And so, look, this is all pork barrelling, and it disgusts me that a Liberal Party, a party born by the free enterprise, is engaging this. And what's even worse is that there's not even any Liberal backbencher getting up and saying, oh, yeah, I don't think this is good. We should be actually cutting taxes rather than splurging money out.
I don't know. Liz, did they score many points today? This business about, the public servant received the approval on election day when it was actually signed on the 4th of April is pretty obvious to everyone, isn't it? Or is it just throw as much mud as you can and see how much sticks?
I love that saying. We saw Morrison say today to Albanese, you are throwing mud at me and you are sitting in an absolute swamp. I didn't think they scored any points with this at all today. It looks like exactly what it is, and that is a desperate grab at anything they can, maybe to detract from the fact that at this point they're only preaching to the choir, which according to the latest news poll is only 33%, which is pretty sad. Yeah. These guys need to drop this. As you said before, 136 emails between a minister and the PM's office about grants. That is not unusual. No. They're trying to make something out of nothing, and it's actually just getting really tired. What's annoying, Chris, is this is not not what people are talking about in the pubs.
No.
Let's talk about power prices. Let's talk about the cost of housing. Let's talk about bushfire recovery. Let's talk about what mainstream Australians actually care about. Mackenzie's off the front bench. Get over it. Move on.
Yeah. I think when it comes to sports grants, John, the only thing they're talking about is, they all do it.
Well, yeah, they do.
There's a pox on both their houses and everyone knows it.
Yeah, and it disgusts me. But, so we used to have in the Liberal Party, in the Parliamentary Liberal Party, a few backbenchers when a government would waste money like this, they would get up and speak out against it. Silence.
OK, well,
Silence.
which brings me to something we should be angry about. North Sydney Council was awarded a $10 million federal government grant to upgrade the North Sydney Olympic pool. The only problem was the grant was meant for regional areas. North Sydney Mayor Gilly Gibson says the North Sydney Olympic pool is definitely a regional facility as people from all over the state use the pool. Give me a break.
Well, I'm a ratepayer in North Sydney, and I can tell you, I would have been much happier if they put our rates up rather than taking money away. So if they've decided to give it to regional areas, obviously those people are going to be very upset. Now, that pool is a beautiful pool already.
Yeah, already.
They've got beautiful land. They've got a pool there. Now, maybe they need to do a little bit of improvements. I don't know what on earth they are going to do with
$10 million. And this business today, Trent Zimmerman, Liz, his smart aleck remark was, I should have come in with my budgie smugglers. We don't like this waste. You think about the country kids who don't have a pool to swim in for 4 months, a very hot part of the year. This could be a godsend for people like that.
Yeah, sure, Chris. Look, doesn't matter how you swing this, it does seem pretty below the belt. Look, the pool does need a refurb, that much I will say. This thing is an iconic pool, hasn't had a refurb since 1936. I can't begrudge it a refurb, but where they've taken the funds from, this was an election commitment. They're delivering on it, but how they're going about it certainly...
It's a shocker.